and gentlemen, we have an amazing guest with us by the name of Linsay. Oh my God, you just said it. Rousseau?
Yeah, you said
Okay,
it
perfect.
right.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
And I remember you actually talking to, I think, Renee. It's French, right? Your last name?
it is. Yeah. So
That's
the
super cool.
Italian is Russo, one
Yeah.
syllable. The French is Rousseau.
Rousseau? Nice. That's super,
Yeah.
super cool. That's amazing. So, I know and love Lindsay because she's a part of like Fail 42 and I've gotten to know her and like throughout different like series and everything that she's a part of. But I want to take a moment for you to actually introduce yourself so that everyone can understand how awesome you are.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Hi, I'm Linsay Rousseau. I have done many things in life, but I am currently living in LA, working as a voiceover actor, mocap performer, dabble in writing, producing some other things, but voiceover is the main thing that
Yeah.
I've done.
Oh, that's so cool. And
Yeah.
you've definitely like you're living the nerd dream because
Right.
you were like I'm a fan of Transformers and all of a sudden boom you're like the voice of like one of the characters in Fallout 76 and then like and
Yeah.
I was telling you about this earlier that you were like on General Hospital which I'm like cuz like
Yes, I was a corrupt security guard, so
oh, that's so cool. That's amazing. Okay. So as you have heard, she has done so many creative projects and different things behind the camera, in front of the camera, and all that in between. But I want to know what is your actual origin story. Now, it can be multiple things. So whatever you feel is Lindsay at her core, whether it be into photography, acting, whatever you think is the most prominent part of Lindsay.
Oh, geez. Huh. What is the most prominent part? Okay, like how so?
I would say like currently you're known for being a voice actress, but is that
Yeah.
like your main passion, or would you consider acting in general or anything like that to be
Yeah,
the main
yeah,
thing?
yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, performing in
Yeah.
general is
Okay.
absolutely my passion. I've been a performer my whole life. I mean, I've done a lot of other things, but
Yeah.
musician, theater,
Yeah.
all of those things. Has always been a huge part of my life and brings me lots of joy.
Oh, that's super cool. And what would you say your origin story into performing was? Did someone guide you into it, or did you just happen to be like, that looks really cool? I think I'm gonna go and do that.
Well, I started playing the piano when I was like 5 or
Yeah.
so, and
Wow. Yeah.
got into singing and then music. And the first time I did a staged performance,
Yeah.
I was in living in Cape Cod, and Bob McGrath, the former host of Sesame Street, was doing a touring show. Um, and They were holding auditions locally. I was little, I was in elementary school. They were
Yeah.
holding auditions locally for singers and dancers. And I auditioned and got a part in one of the songs that they were doing, Hard Knock Life. And so this it was on this huge outdoor, stage. And
Yeah.
it was so much fun. And I'd been doing, bands and choirs and stuff like that, but this was like the first time I'd actually, performed on a stage. And
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Oh, that's super cool. Did your parents like start off the journey with piano as just like, oh, we just want you to learn piano, or was it more so of like, I think you should definitely do this in front of people and everything?
Well, no, music was really important to my parents.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So my brother started as well. He ended up giving it up a little while later, but
yeah,
yeah, music had always been really important to my parents. My mom's father, he died when she was little, but he had
yeah.
been a professional violinist, and my dad had
Wow.
played saxophone growing up.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then picked up the flute, a couple years later, and
So much talent. Oh my
had always
gosh.
been singing. So yeah, it was a natural transition. Again, I would say music really dominated most of my
Yeah.
early life. And then, once I I ended up at a middle school that was outside of New York, and
Yeah.
had an amazing theater program. And that's when I really started getting into theater, and, starting in like 6th grade, like I was doing stage performances every year, multiple times a
Yeah.
year. So yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I relate because my father's a musician as well as my sister. So like coming from a family of like artists and musicians, it's like super super cool and it's awesome. Yeah. And one thing I want to ask because you are definitely like I would say like myself and many others, a hyper creative where you just cannot
Yeah.
stop going. You just gotta like do other projects and do super cool stuff, which is super dope. But I wanted to ask, as a content creator, we can often find ourselves working beyond our limits and ultimately burning out. What are your own self care techniques to ensure that you are, your mental health is in check and everything?
Yeah, no, my mental health is so important to me. It, really, I'm an army veteran and, combat
Oh
veteran.
wow, yeah,
So, I served in Iraq. So, healing from that and knowing what living a healthy lifestyle and surrounding myself with positive people and people who don't drag you down and support you. And
yeah,
I have always been the type of person that's like overly involved in things. Like, when I got to, I think it was like middle school or high school, my parents were like, okay, you got to pick. Cause I was like doing private singing lessons, private piano lessons,
yeah,
private dance lessons, private flute lessons, plus like theater and everything. They're like, okay, we can't keep doing all of this. You got to pick and choose. And I was also, hyper academic. I was
yeah,
doing all the AP classes and everything. But that's just kind of my personality. I just really need to be engaged.
yeah.
But COVID's kind of been a blessing and a curse in that it's
Same.
actually
Yeah,
really allowed me to start doing a lot of other creative things that I hadn't
yeah,
had time to do before because for on camera, like I was driving all over LA going to auditions,
yeah.
sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and like I'm sitting in my car for hours on end, so I just didn't have the time. And so
Yeah.
now I had more time, and it's like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm
Hmm.
going to do that. Next thing I know, I'm like involved in like 7 different projects plus like the 4 hours of auditions I
Yeah,
have to do every day. So but I do definitely take time for myself.
yeah.
I do a lot of martial arts, which is really
Oh,
important.
that's cool. Yeah,
And it's very cathartic for me as
yeah,
well. And I'm vegan, so I'm really concerned about healthy living and eating and all of that. And
yeah,
nature is also really important to me. So I had gotten really into, I got back into hiking and was
yeah.
doing like 8 to 10 mile hikes every weekend. So
Wow, that's awesome. I could do like 4 and then I die. So like that's amazing that you do like 8. Jeez, that's like awesome.
Well, it's like you kind of hit your
Yeah,
stride at like
get
three
that
or
good
four,
podcast. Yeah,
and
and then
well, and also by then it's like you might run into a couple people like the first 2 miles,
yeah,
and then maybe like 1 or 2 people the next 2 miles, but
yeah,
like once you get past that, nobody, absolutely
yeah.
nobody. And I'm kind of an introvert, so I like having
That space and that kind of like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I completely understand. It's beautiful when you see all like how like nature when you get all the way up to that top of the mountain or get to like climb up to where
yeah,
like there's barely anyone. It's like especially you're in LA, right?
yeah,
Okay, yeah. I'm over in Arizona and we have a lot of beautiful hiking trails, so it's like
yeah.
super super cool and everything. And that's really I completely agree about COVID being a blessing and a curse because like I'm sure you were the same way where like I had to do the convention hustle where you go to like Anime Expo and then like BlizzCon
Yes.
and all of the
Oh,
ones back to back to back and it's
conventions are huge in my
yeah,
career. Like
exactly.
not having conventions like really hurt this year
Yeah.
because Transformers was supposed to be released 2 weeks after Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. So like Rooster Teeth had been planning these panels and like, it would have been huge for PR and just
Yeah.
but yeah, the con circuit can be exhausting too. Like I pretty much only do California cons,
Yeah.
but I do have friends who, travel all over the country doing cons like every other
Yeah.
weekend, and that's a grind as well.
Oh, for sure. And it like not only like it's a financial grind, it's an emotional grind, and it's like a physical grind because like I feel I don't know what the term is for it, but like I have
Con grind.
yeah, exactly. I have a lot of extrovert tendencies, but at the same time I also have those introvert ones where I can go 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 and then when I hit my like wall, I hit it
Yep.
hard and then plummet. So
Yeah,
it's
but like
like
you need like a week off after
yeah.
San Diego Comic-Con.
I know that you've accomplished so much during your career as a voice actress, as an actress and performer and everything. But there's also have to been some L's during your career. Those moments. Now, a wonderful woman by the name of Eliana Murillo, she had said that L's no longer stand for losses, they stand for lessons. So, what would you consider to be one of the biggest L's in your career? Whether it was a situation where it's like, you know what, I got a little bit too like I was prepared for everything and still something went wrong, or a situation where it was like I really didn't prepare myself and I kind of like got bit in the butt for it or whatever. Like, what is the situation that you can recall
Mm.
that was a big L, but was also a great lesson that made you that much better of a performer, human being, whatever?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. I mean, this industry is basically the foundation of it is rejection.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's one thing is like you literally you well, in voiceover, I think the statistics are you book out of one out of like every 100 jobs you audition for,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and you never hear back, you never know, so you never know, like, am I sucking, was that just not, so so you have to really steel yourself to just not worry about any of that.
Yeah.
As far as like something that went awry or that I learned from, I don't know. Because I don't really ever consider things to be losses if
Yeah.
it's, because I just kind of power through things. I mean, I will say, like, don't ever shoot an action short in one day. Like 14 hours of nonstop action. I
Yeah.
couldn't walk for like a week after that. So
Oh
that was a
really?
learning
That sounds like an
experience.
L. It's in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it came out great,
Yeah.
but a 14-hour day where it's literally like fight sequence after fight sequence
Yeah.
is pretty intense. I will say, and I don't know if they qualify as losses, but I've definitely learned since being here what I'm willing to put up with and what I'm not, because
Yeah.
I came to Hollywood older in life.
Mhm.
I moved here when I was 36. Most people move here when they're 20s, teens,
Yeah.
20s, which, some people thought was crazy. But because of that and all the life experiences I'd had, and because, like we talked about, my mental health is so
Yeah.
important to me, I made conscious decisions, as to the types of people I would be around. And there can be a lot of toxicity in this industry.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Um, and I was actually involved in a project, and it seemed really, really fun at first. It was geeky. It was like I was hosting, and I was really enjoying it at first, but then I just started to realize, the person who had started this
Yeah.
was just a really negative influence on my life. Just
Hmm.
it was really starting to affect me emotionally. I was noticing I
Yeah.
was really stressed out. I was, constantly frustrated and constantly, you know, wondering, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? And
Yeah.
it got to the point where I was like, you know what? If this is causing me this much consternation, it's not worth it.
Hmm.
I don't care if,
Boundaries.
we
Yeah.
can sign a deal with Amazon. Like, I'm done. And I quit
Yeah.
because it was not worth my health. Now, that being said, of course, sometimes you're going to work with people that
You
maybe you
won't
don't
always
get
get
along
along
with,
with.
but it's
Yeah.
like, if you're on set with them for a day or a couple days, that's fine. But if
Yeah.
it's like an ongoing recurring thing
Hmm.
and it's something you do have control over, then, like, I stepped away.
Yeah.
So that's not a loss per se. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe the thing's on Amazon now, but it definitely was an enlightening moment for me.
I think it's beautiful what you just said. Yeah, because I think we all have those situations, especially in the geek community, because it's like a tale as old as time. As someone who's geeky, getting a little bit too much power, and then they end up abusing it in certain ways, and it's just like
Yeah.
poisons the well. And a lot of times, especially if you have like self-esteem issues or whatever, which I had a ton, growing up. So I found myself in multiple situations that were very like toxic and everything, where it was like, well,
Yeah.
if I walk away from this, I'll never get anything better. Maybe this is the best I ever have, and
Yeah.
that's such
And it's
hard.
the same thing with like learning to say no,
Yeah.
because especially in this industry and being a freelance, it's like, is this my last job? Am I ever going to work again? I have to say
Yeah.
yes to this, this, and this. It's like, no, no, no. Sometimes there's a lot of power in saying no.
Hmm.
And just, if it doesn't feel right to you, if
Yeah.
it's, more trouble than it's worth for whatever reason, like, it's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away. Like, another opportunity
Yeah.
will present itself. But that's also really hard. I know it is for me sometimes to remember those things.
That unknown. Yeah. Oof. It's so
Yeah.
good. So pivoting on the other end of the spectrum, you've
Yeah.
also had a lot of W's in your career. What would you say is your
Yeah.
proudest moment that out of everything you accomplished, now it could be something very like small in the beginning that mattered to you immensely, but to the rest of the world it was like, oh, whatever. Or it could be like,
Hmm.
awards, what like huge accolades and everything. What was your biggest W?
I mean, I think Alita 1 was a huge W.
Yeah.
I mean, Transformers, that, it's
Oh,
it's
for sure.
it's
Yeah.
kind of the biggest thing that I've had to date in my career.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll say not dying at war, that's a pretty big
Oh,
W.
yeah, I would
So I'm
say
gonna put
so.
that out there too.
For
Like,
sure. Oh my
hey, I'm
god.
alive. So
Yeah.
like just the mere, like, I know maybe it sounds trite, but like
Yeah.
literally just the fact that I'm alive and sitting here
Yeah.
today to me is a big W.
Oh, for sure. I can't even imagine. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So yeah.
You've lived multiple lives. Hey, it's
I
like
have lived multiple lives, it's like never the easy path to
yeah.
get where I need to be.
But that's see, I always that's fascinating to me because looking at you as a tabletop RPG performer, you pull out these different characters that have a lot of depth to them, that are very unique and diverse and
Yeah.
everything. And I can tell that you draw on your experiences to and put it into the character. So it's not just like a Mary or Gary Sue. They're usually very imperfect and they're beautiful because of that.
Yeah,
So
I really love flawed characters. I
yeah,
mean, those as a performer, those are my favorite things to play,
yeah,
because again, I have had a pretty unique life.
yeah,
I've done a lot of things. I've had a lot of experiences. Wait till you see my Volcania character. Uh, Definitely drawing on some stuff for her.
yeah,
But it all actually goes to making you a better performer. It gives you that life experience. It gives you things to draw on.
yeah,
It's not always going to be a perfect parallel, but it's like when you've suffered extreme loss and
yeah.
extreme hardship and extreme pain,
Hmm.
and you've lived through it, then that's just gonna help make you a
Yeah.
stronger person. And then as a performer, it's gonna give you so much more to draw upon.
Hmm. To create like such beautiful artwork that like you
Yeah,
only could have
yeah,
earned, through those bad experiences. So it's like it's wild.
right.
That's really cool. So what would you say some geeky passions that fuel you and your creativity?
Like hobbies or like obviously play D&D a
Yeah,
lot.
whichever where there's like when you go into voice acting or performing on camera or even tabletop RPGs, is there any sort of form or medium that you draw upon like oh I love novels or films and that's what I consume and then bring it out?
Oh, okay. I mean, obviously, video games
Yeah,
are I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite mediums to perform in.
yeah,
I love the storytelling in video games. I love that you have so much time to tell stories. I mean, obviously not
yeah.
every game, you've got your first person shooters and stuff that, are limited, or mobile games that maybe aren't as in depth or anything. But for me, video games are really it's the type of acting I like to do.
Mhm.
It's the storytelling I like to be involved in. Um, so that's something that really fuels me. And I am a gamer. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't have a ton of time to play games anymore, but honestly, video games are what got me into voiceover.
yeah,
I was doing theater full time. I'd quit journalism. I was doing theater full time in San Francisco, and a million side jobs, and was playing through Mass Effect and playing as Femme Shepard, the
yeah.
only character you should ever play as. Um, let's be honest. And Jennifer Hale is one of my idols, and her performance in that just blew me away. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there playing the game, and I was just like, this is what I want to be doing. And just happened to have, I was in a theater company with a friend whose husband was the sound designer for video games. And
Yeah.
so I was able to talk to him, and that was my pathway into voiceover. So video games is the
Wow.
reason I got into voiceover.
Yeah.
And granted, I've had not as much success in on camera, but like the characters that I absolutely dream about playing are like,
Yeah.
your superheroes or your supervillains or,
Mhm.
your action people, and, anything geeky is, just my passion
Yeah.
for.
And
Absolutely.
I love that because I've interviewed a lot of people over my time, of doing my website called The Geek Life and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I've had the pleasure of interviewing a couple of Japanese voice actresses who usually play very scantily clad anime characters and everything. And then they I was like, oh my god, I have no idea what they look like or anything like that. But it's crazy that they do like Nico Robin and they do all these different ones from these major anime. And then they walk in and they're like an older like Japanese woman who's so
Yeah.
frail and everything. And I was like, oh my god, like so.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I because of my army experience, series, I tend to get like the more badass. I mean, I'm pretty much a
Yeah.
utility player, but I get the shouty, screamy, dying roles a
Yeah.
lot. Like just go into sessions and it's just like I'm dying 50 different ways.
Yeah.
But if you do want to see a stark contrast,
Yeah.
I played Janai in Exos Heroes. Just Google
Oh.
her.
Yeah.
Just Google her name and you'll see the artwork for her and you're like, oh, that's Linsay. Like I actually had people reach out to me when the game dropped
You're
because
like,
there was an
wait a second.
expansion pack released
Yeah.
a couple months ago and she ends up becoming a K-pop star. People were like, that's you. And I was like,
You're like,
yep.
yep. That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What
But
can you?
that's the thing about
Yeah.
voiceover is, you can
This range.
you're
Yeah.
not restricted by how you look,
Yeah.
you know?
That's amazing. Could you talk about one of your what's one of your favorite characters that you've ever voiced out of all the characters you've ever done, or it can be even like an acting performance as well, like the corrupt crowd
Yeah.
in General Hospital or like something.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say Alita 1 was amazing to
Yeah.
play. I was so excited when I got the scripts and to see her story arc,
Yeah.
was just, they were finally kind of, because she's got such an amazing story in the comics. She really is Optimus's right hand bot.
Yeah.
And so I loved how grounded and gritty the story was. Again, having served in combat, I really felt like this didn't sanitize what it's like to be in war. You
Yeah.
got the feeling of these people are worn down and they're at their wits end and everything. And so that absolutely is,
Resonated and everything. Yeah.
my favorite. Yeah, it really resonated with me. And Phil Bach, who was the voice director on that, was just amazing to work with. He
Yeah.
just really pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to get the best performance possible. And I really appreciate that from him. But like going back to my theater days, I played some incredible, I was in this show called Yellow,
Yeah.
where I played this fundamentalist Pentecostal woman
Yeah.
who essentially beat her gay son. And it was obviously a horrific person.
Yeah.
But as a performer, to have to learn to dive into characters that you as a person
All right. Conflict
would
with. Yeah.
never agree with, and never, like, she is
Yeah.
literally like the opposite end of the spectrum of where I am. But I really had to dive into that and, ended up getting a lot of really good reviews,
Yeah.
in the media and everything. And I was very proud of that, because to be able to play a character that is so antithetical to who I am,
Yeah. That's
and
like
still
growth.
be able to
That's
portray her authentically,
yeah.
so that was a really big moment for me,
Yeah.
as a performer, because I'd always played again, I'd always kind of been a character actor growing up, so playing the more, not necessarily evil, but the more
Neutral or
nuanced characters, the more maybe quirky or offbeat, or not your ingenue. So but this one really made me dive in, and yeah.
Dang, that's amazing. What would you say? Actually, we'll go to this one. So let's say you go back in time to a younger version of yourself, a Linsay who just came to California, or who was like performing, or like really wanted an audition but then didn't get it, or what have you. If you could go back in time to meet them, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself that would make your journey just a little bit easier?
I mean, it's always hard to say that, because everything that you do in your life leads you to where you are today.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you remove one of the elements, you might not be where you are today. But that being said, like, there's always a part of me that's like, man, I wish I'd moved here 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
If I'd moved here in like the early 2000s, would have been a whole other story. But I also wouldn't have had the life experiences that I have. But yeah, I mean, that's maybe one thing, but everyone's journey in this industry is different. There's no one way people get into the entertainment business. And you oftentimes find yourself going down paths you didn't even know about. Like I
Yeah.
had no idea what motion capture was until I moved. I mean, I obviously knew about like Andy Serkis and
Yeah.
The Hobbit and stuff like that, but I didn't really know what mocap was until I moved out here
Mhm.
and was like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And I absolutely love it. So,
Yeah.
maybe if I'd like discovered that a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
or had started branching out into, started writing a little bit. I don't know. There's
Yeah.
always so many what ifs that you can do. But
Yeah.
when I moved out here, I was like living off my meager savings. I was working numerous side gigs. So it's like I didn't have time.
Yeah.
It's either like I'm going to auditions, I'm doing auditions, or I'm going to sessions, and then I'm like
Full
having to
force.
go to in-store demos for the granola bar company I'm working for, and these
Yeah.
other things, and helping edit my friend's book. And so yeah.
Yeah, and I give you a lot of credit because I know for a lot of people that I interview for this, specifically some of the voice actors that I've interviewed. One of them, God, I can't remember his name, but he voices the English dub of One Punch Man, and he's actually like Saitama and everything. And he said that when he was actually going to college to learn how to do acting and everything, he like told his teacher, who he had a lot of respect for, that like I think I want to go into voice acting. And his teacher was like, "You're not going to make it in voice acting. Just go ahead and like do anything else." And then and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then there he was as an anime, like a prominent anime voice actor. Yeah,
Professor.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
like,
So I can't even imagine, because like acting for me seems so intimate, seems so
yeah.
like emotional. Like you really need to give your all in front of tons of people while they're judging you, looking at you, writing reviews or critiques and everything. Mm-hmm. So it's such an intimate art form because music, you can play an instrument, and then just take the audio file and then put it on and then people can listen to it. And for like podcasting, same thing. Like there's all these different ways to hide yourself. But when you're acting, there is no hiding. It's just like you in front of the camera.
Yeah,
And
it's true. I mean, voiceover, I would say, is a little bit different in
yeah,
that, like, we do kind of still have a level of anonymity.
yeah,
Because again, going back to conventions, conventions for me were always a big opportunity to
yeah,
network and also see people I hadn't seen in a while. And it's like it's really interesting because, like, with voice actors, and I know who they are,
yeah,
but like. I'm walking around the convention floor and I'm like, Rob Paulson, what's up? Haven't seen you in
yeah.
forever. And it's like, I know who Rob Paulson is. I know what he looks like. He's huge.
He
He's
just
a
looks
Ninja Turtle.
exactly.
Nobody else walking the
It's
floor knows
just
who he
no
is.
other person. Yeah,
And a lot of people, I know a lot of voice actors that actually really enjoy that
yeah,
because they're able to have success in the industry, but not have to deal with a lot of the bullshit that on-camera actors have to deal with. Like they can walk down the street. Bob Bergen can walk down the street and no one knows who he is, even though he is one of the highest earning actors in Hollywood. I think he's like the number 4 highest earning actor in Hollywood.
Wow. Yeah.
Frank Welker, all these amazing big names. Like, and if you really are into the industry,
Yeah.
especially in voice, like, who these people are,
Yeah.
know what they look like. But your average person, it's like, oh, you're gonna
They're
know
just
if
a dude.
Angelina
Yeah.
Jolie's walking down the street, but probably not if Jen Hale's walking down the street.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the other thing with voiceover is it's all on you.
Yeah.
You don't have anyone to feed off of. If you're in a session, obviously, hopefully, you've got an amazing director who's helping you and pulling. But like when I'm at home doing all my auditions, it's me in a booth.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to draw. It's like I've got, and sometimes I might not even have context in the script. It's like I get, like a video game audition and it's literally just like line with no context.
Yeah.
You have to create that context for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have anyone to play off of. And when you do sessions, you don't have anyone to play off of.
Yeah.
It is very, very rare to have ensemble recordings these days. I mean, even pre-COVID. There's a couple animated series that do it, but it is very rare. And so you have to learn to be a performer who is able to act and react without having that,
and to bounce off of. Yeah.
You. Yeah.
Dang, that's so amazing. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. Okay. So where can we find you online?
You can find me at Linsay Rousseau on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. You can find me on Fabled 42 streaming on Mondays. I have my talk show, The Rollout, every Wednesday, and of course, you can find everything on YouTube and in podcast form. I am going to start producing some content for Culture Slate, so I've got some things in the work for them.
Yeah.
probably some Star Wars themed things. So keep your eyes out for that. And what? Oh well, I mean, season 3 of Transformers drops, I believe, in July.
Hey,
I
awesome.
think I have a game announcement I can make next Friday. I
Yeah.
need to, I need to email production because
Just in case. Yeah.
I think it's being released on Friday. So I have to, and that's kind of, it's a very cool game. So I'm like, I might have something to announce next
Yeah.
this coming Friday. That's the other thing with voiceovers. Like you literally record stuff
Yeah.
months or even years before it comes out, and you're like, did I do that? It's usually a friend being like, yo, were you in this thing? It just came out. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's what
oh,
after meeting you, I was like, I think I've heard her voice before. And then I think Chris
yeah,
was
you
like, she's in
probably
World of
have. You
Warcraft and
probably
she's in
killed
like all
me.
right?
You
It's like bad
probably
guys.
killed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I've definitely got some stuff
Yeah.
in the pipeline. And if you want to hear me, literally, if you're having trouble with your Disney Plus,
Yeah.
call the helpline. I will help guide you through that.
Oh,
I'm
really?
voice
You're
of
the
the
voice of
Disney
her?
Plus help.
Wow.
And if you go to Whole Foods and you hear a female voice telling you to socially distance and maybe check out the butcher, that is also me. So
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. So, I don't know if you've ever seen any of my interviews, but I do something at the very end of them where I take a genuine moment. So, for the next few minutes, you cannot deny anything, refute anything, or anything like that. So,
NDAs excluded, I assume, because yeah.
oh, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
Okay.
Linsay, I want to thank you for like just a brief moment. Now I have immense respect for you because you've accomplished so much in your life, whether it's being like serving our country and going like, and putting your life on the line and then coming back and chasing your dreams and going into voice acting and then taking time to play Dungeons and Dragons and all these different things with these people. Like you're such a beautiful soul. And I want to say thank you genuinely from the bottom of my heart for being so wonderful and chasing your dreams and investing, in yourselves. Because we all have self-doubt, but it seems like when you can counter self-doubt, you double down on your hard work and you're thriving because of it. And I'm so excited that you have all these projects that are working out for you and like you're doing all these things. You deserve every single bit of success that you have. And I want to thank you for one, being alive, two, being in this community and like doing everything. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah, so I just want to give you those words of affirmation because you deserve it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we get a lot of rejection in this industry, so it's always nice to hear that.
Yeah, dude, you're a titan. It's amazing. It's like super, super cool. So I want to thank you again for being here.
Yeah.
Everyone, make sure to go ahead and follow her on all of her social medias. Check out everything she does. Check out Transformers. Where can we find Transformers?
Netflix. So
Okay,
seasons 1 and 2 are out. Season 1 is Transformers. So it's Transformers War for Cybertron. So season 1 is Siege, and season 2 is Earthrise.
Nice. And then later today on Fable 42, you can actually check her out on Forge of Heart, Forge of Fate.
Forge of Fate, the
Forge of
new
Fate, yes.
Volcania tabletop game, which we are, I believe, the first people to ever play it because it's still on
Wow.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So that'll be streaming live at 4 o'clock Pacific on the Fable 42 network.
That'll be super cool. So I hope you guys all have a good day, and we'll see you later.